Hey, how you doing, everybody? So it's time for Monday Musings again, and so I wanted to talk about a few different things. I wanted to talk about editing, and I want to talk about um, the things that you have to do with your book post writing or post word vomit for Nano. Um, but before that, I want to talk about why my hair was wet because um, So my daughter-in-law was over to pick up my grandson, and she comes in and she says, um, the shelter that you have outside, there's a lot of water in the roof. You might want to check it." I'm like, "Oh, thank you for letting me know." I go running out. I hadn't realized it was raining, and it wasn't actually, it was melted snow, but that's okay. So I go running out there, and sure enough, the water has dented in where the pop-up sits. And so I'm like, "Oh, okay, no problem. Just have to fix this." And so I start the process of dumping the water out. No problem. I've done this a million times before. And then I notice there's this little pocket on the inside. I'm like, "Oh, I have to pop that one out too." So I'm carefully pushing up on it so that it will fall over the edge and out of my area. And I goofed. And I had about 2 gallons of slushy, icy, very cold water dumped all over me, not just on me, but it went down in my coat and down into my boots. Wow. So, yeah, that was not a favorite moment. The things we do for our reenactment, right? Because I'm maintaining an outside space so that I have the ability to um, be outdoors and do outdoor things and continue practicing my skills, even though the weather is crappy and I don't necessarily want to be outside. So that's why my hair is wet. I had to go take a shower. A really, really hot shower. So I feel a lot better now. It's a little bit mucky out there. It's been sort of snowing in fits and starts, but it's not sticking. They said we might get like up about an inch or so. No big deal. So all of that is good. My cookbook is doing incredibly well from my personal point of view. From a book that I have produced myself, I did the editing myself, and um, I did the cover myself. It's doing relatively well. I've sold about 200 copies, and I can't even tell you how over the moon I am at that. And it's continuing to sell, which is really exciting. I mean, I wish I was getting 6 or 7 or 8 books a day going out, but getting 1 or 2 a day, I'll take that. That's great. And I'm very excited because I'm hearing back from people who are reading the book, finding it useful and entertaining and interesting, and asking questions, asking advice, and asking about whether there'll be other cookbooks. So the answer is yes, I probably will have other cookbooks, but not anytime soon. So don't expect it in the next year or two. I have the fantasy novel, which I worked on during NaNoWriMo, which I'm hoping to finish up um, come the end of December, beginning of January. Then um, I have a sci-fi novel that I'm working on with my partner, and that novel is going to take a time. This is not a quick fly-by-night, and it's not going to be a nano get it whipped out in 30 days either, because to date, I have not written sci-fi. And if you want to know why, it's because I don't have a thick enough science background. Okay. It was not a subject I was good at in school. I failed math. I just, I was miserable at it. As interested as I am in science fiction and in science in general, my ability to do science is low. And I grew up on masters like Heinlein and Asimov and Piers Anthony and these huge names in science fiction. And it was very heavy on the science. And to me, That is very much what science fiction should be. The science should not jar anyone who has a science background. I want my most scientific readers to be able to pick it up and go, that could be, that's plausible, that suspends my disbelief. I'm wonderful at writing dialogue. I'm pretty good at writing descriptions. Science, not so much. But my partner has offered to work on the book with me. So it's actually going to be a joint effort. He will be doing the science gobbledygook and helping me out with some of how the science people should be reacting in it. And it is going to be decidedly heavy science. You will not have to be a scientist to read it. At the end, I will be able to read it and I will have written it and I will understand all that's in it because I'm going to take his complex stuff and then explain it because I have access to him to translate for me. So, yeah. This is something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. Longer than the fantasy story, in fact. It's been something that I've written bits and pieces of, I don't know, dozens of times, and they're all just sort of sitting there, and I need to go through them and piece them together. And I'm very happy to be able to do this. It's going to take a few months to write that, and then a few more months to edit and maybe get it published. So there's all that. And then I was originally not very excited about the third Taylor Mage novel. I've been having issues with trying to figure out where I wanted to go with it. And I had ideas, but they weren't cohesive ideas. They were just kind of very nebulous. And then over the last couple of weekends, I've had a bunch of things happen which really made me very excited. And I've been making notes and have been happy about that. I suspect that by next Nano, I will be writing the third Taylor Mage novel, which will put it out sometime in 2022, I think. Fingers crossed. And as I've said before, I do have more novels in my head, but they take their time to kind of percolate through the gray matter and become creative enough for me to write about. And so I'm not rushing them. I would rather have a couple of years between stories and have them be good stories and engaging and fun to read than to rush through them and be strained in writing it. So I'm just going to be doing that. And that may be that the fantasy gets put on the back burner while I work on the sci-fi for a while. I'm not going to stress over it. I have that there. And I still have a historical fiction about my grandmother still sitting in the queue as well. So there's lots of things that will be coming out over the next few years. Don't give up on me and keep listening and joining in and ask questions and buy my cookbook. And buy my vampire novels. You know, I'd love to have some stuff thrown in if you guys have ideas. And I don't mind questions about my characters. You know, if you ask a question and I like it, it might be that it gets incorporated into the novel, or it might be that I just give you the answer privately and you get to sit back with the smug knowledge that you have information that other readers don't. So that leads me all to editing. So you sit down for NaNoWriMo and you word vomit on the page or the screen or however you do it. And you end up at the end of the Nano somewhere between 45 and 80,000 words, shall we say. Some people go a little higher, some a little lower, but, you know, roughly at the 50,000 word mark. And now you have to take that and turn it into a novel, because I'm sorry to tell you, no matter how well written that first draft is, it's not a novel. It's a first draft. There's nothing shameful about it being a first draft, but you can't call it something it's not, so don't. Seriously, I will shame you in public. You need to take that and you need to go through it, and you need to read it and reread it and have test readers read it, correct all the grammar and the spelling errors because they happen. I type 120 words a minute accurately. I don't make a lot of typos, but even I have errors sometimes where during the creative process, a word in my brain didn't coalesce as well with the word that came out of my fingers. It just happens. And it's important to do that editing process. You must do it. When it's all finished being edited, you can either attempt to market it traditionally, if that's where you want to go, or you can start the process of preparing your novel for self-publication. And there are a bunch of different ways to do that. I prefer working through KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. That's Amazon's publishing house. Okay. The reason that I publish through them is that there is no upfront cost other than if I want editing or cover stuff, which I usually do. Okay. I'm a writer. I'm not a photographer or a graphics artist. And I'm not, sorry, my hair is like all over the place. And I'm just not good at those things. That's not my job. My job is to do the writing part. So even though I tend to do my own editing, I try very hard to get other professionals to do the cover work, and if I can afford it, the editing, because it's just worth it to have another pair of eyes on it. My eyes cease to see errors after a while because I wrote it, so I've seen it a zillion times. So you want to go through all that process. But when you have a finished product, okay, your book is now complete. It is a book. It's final draft. It's ready to go to your publisher. So if you're doing self-publishing, the next thing you have to do is you have to format it. You have to decide what size you want your book to be. You have to decide on a cover style. You have to decide on margins, page numbers, all that stuff. And you have to put a copyright page in. Now, I say that. Do you have to put a copyright page in? No, you don't. So KDP, when it prints, on the very back page, I don't know if you can see it there. Oh, yeah, that's on the back page, okay? That has my ISBN. It says where it was printed, that it was made in the USA. It was printed in Delaware on the 27th of October, okay? That's, and you don't have to worry about me breaking the spine. This is my not for sale author copy because I had to proof it. And there are actually errors in here that were fixed before it went to publication. So there. That's all you're legally required. And they do it they do it. You don't have to do it. Okay? But if you pick up a paperback or hardcover in your genre and you look at it, it has a cover. Yay. Sometimes it has a paper cover over the top. If you're doing soft cover, not an issue. Okay? It has a frontispiece. So the frontispiece has usually the name of the book and the subtitle if there is one. It has which edition it is, where it was published, in this case, New Hampshire by Troglodyte Services, and then the date, October 2020. Okay, and on the back of that page is the copyright page. And all professionally done books have a copyright page, right? There's the Reenactors Cookbook's copyright page. That page has the name of the book, the word copyright, the date, to whom it is copyrighted, all rights reserved, don't reproduce it, first printing was October 2020, who was it published by, where, how do you get a hold of the publisher, who did the cover design, who did the photography, which can be separately or all the same. In my case, I did this cover myself, so I'm the person who has my name on it. If you are doing it yourself, you don't have to put yourself separately, but because I usually employ somebody to do that cover art for me, I put my name in separately just to highlight the fact that I did this one myself. And I put in who my typesetter was, which was Mike Seuss, because there's something that someone told me a long time ago. It costs nothing to give people credit. Okay? It really doesn't. It's no skin off my back to put somebody else's name in my book. So if I have a piece of poetry that somebody has given to me to use in my book, I credit them and it goes in that front page. Okay? If there's a picture on the front that has a special copyright. I put that on the front page. Why? Because that's where you go to look to find the copyright info. Okay? People have been taught that's how you get the copyright info. And rightly so. So even if you are doing this yourself, if you put that in there, it gives your book a very professional look. Certainly more so than the average book that is produced by a self-published author. Okay. One of the things that I have been told that has made a difference to people who have looked at my book is that seeing that front page, the frontis and the copyright page, made it look that much more professional. It matches the other books on the bookshelf. It is a finished product worthy of keeping. And that's that. It takes minutes to put this thing together. And it gives the information that most readers will look for if they want to quote you, if they want to mention your book in public. And remember, you want people to mention your darn book, right? So give credit where credit is due. Make sure you have permission to use everything that's in your book. And don't be stingy with names. If somebody put a lot of work in, give them a credit. Say thank you to my spouse for putting up with microwave TV dinners for a month while I was getting this together. Thank you to my best friend who provided the piece of poetry. Whatever it is, okay? It's nothing to you, and it's everything to them. It really is. So do that. Then there's all the interior. I have a professionally done table of contents, both in my fictional books and in my nonfiction. It is much more important in the nonfiction book because I chose not to have an index. Because the table of contents is so detailed, it acts as an index, basically. And so I decided that I would not put the index in the back. But there is the bibliography, and there's also a glossary for those weird terms that maybe you haven't heard before that I use all the time because I do medieval recreation, and using a spider in the kitchen is just something that I've been doing for 5 years, and it doesn't occur to me that other people look and think, what is she doing? Holding a tarantula by one leg over the fire? Oh my God, is she? So, yes. But all of that has to be put together. It has to be finished. It has to be in the right size. When you go to publish a book, you can't just pick a size at random. I mean, you can, but that's not going to be to the best of your marketing. You have to go out and look and see what size are cookbooks as opposed to fictional books. They're not the same size, okay? Generally speaking, when you go to cookbooks, you have two types of cookbooks. You have the big coffee table cookbooks. They go on the bottom shelf, which is the extra big shelf on my baking rack. And then the other shelves have all of the other ones, and they're all this height. Why? Because this is the standard size. There are a few that don't fit that, but you know what they don't do? They don't sit nicely on my bookshelf, and I don't use them as much because of that. And that's just marketing, okay? You have to go out and you have to learn about marketing. And I got to say, as an author, I hate marketing. I really do. But you know what? When I released my cookbook, I sent out written notices to every major newspaper in the country. Did I think that the New York Times or the Washington Post was going to write back to me and say, "Oh, we'd love to have your book. Can you send us a copy, or can we review it and put it in the newspaper?" I mean, okay, that's a dream, but it's not going to happen. But what if it did? What if it just so happens, and this is what happens with news, okay? And this is why it's important to do these press releases. If that day, the book editor, who's also the editor for the entertainment section of the newspaper, of course, is looking at it going, I need to do a piece on Ren fairs because that's what my boss told me I need to do. I don't know anything about Ren fairs. Oh my God, this woman has Ren fairs. It's a book and it has to do with Ren fairs. Ooh, maybe that'll have some info. All you need is one. If you get one big paper, they all pick it up because that's just what newspapers do. And it's the same with magazines. So, yes, get that information out. You might feel embarrassed or concerned that maybe you're not really an author. I feel that way all the time. I have like 5 books out now, and I'm in I don't know how many anthologies, and I still look and go, I'm not an author. who who said that? I'm not me. No, but I am, and I have to remember that, and I have to put the information out because that's what people expect of authors, and that's how you sell books, and that's what you want to do. You want to get your story out to the people who need to read it. So that's where I'm at for today. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next Monday. I think it's like the 21st, so it's solstice. Goodness only knows what's going to be happening with the internet. We'll have a new president or an old president. I don't know. I guess we'll find out today. But wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, have a coffee or a tea or a soda or a glass of water in my honor, in your own honor. Go forth, write, edit, produce, and put out books and share them with me. Anybody who is a new author who wants to put their book up on my social media, absolutely. If you want it on my website, send me the link to it on Amazon or wherever it's listed, and I'll look through it and I'll give you a bit of a boost. If you want me to review it, check with me before you send me the book, because sometimes I don't have time, but if I have time, I'll read and review your book. Just beware, I do honest reviews. So if it's chock-a-block full of spelling errors or you didn't edit your word vomit from November's NaNoWriMo, I will mention it. But if you want me to do that, I'm happy to do that. Send me a book. I'm always looking for new books to read. All right. I love you guys. Go forth and write. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you find this is useful, pass it along. I have no problems with that. If you have any questions, just ask. I love y'all. I'll see you next week. And happy solstice and happy Hanukkah. And I think Kwanzaa is after Christmas this year. And Bodhi Day was last week as well. So happy winter holidays, all of them, because they all have to do with some version of bringing the light back to the world.